My name is Natalie Hale. I'm 29 years old. And if you had told me 1 year ago that the man I loved would stand in my own living room, surrounded by his coworkers, and tell everyone I was nothing more than a situationship, I probably would have laughed. Not because Carter was incapable of cruelty. He was. Not because our relationship was perfect. It wasn't. But because there are certain humiliations your mind refuses to rehearse before they happen. Some betrayals are too specific, too ugly, too theatrical to imagine until you are already standing in the middle of them with a split bag of ice in your hands and 30 strangers watching your face collapse. I had been with Carter Voss for 4 years. He was 27, sharp, charming, ambitious in a way people admired when they didn't have to live with it. He worked as a talent acquisition specialist for a biotech startup called Nexion. He knew how to talk in rooms full of important people. He knew when to laugh, when to flatter, when to lean forward like someone's boring story had changed his life. I worked as a quality control supervisor at a food manufacturing plant. Steady hours, decent pay. Hairnets, clipboards, temperature logs, stainless steel tables. The constant low hum of machines that never cared about anyone's dreams. Carter used to call my job reliable. At first, I thought he meant it kindly. Later, I understood it was one of those words people use when they want to insult you without sounding cruel. We met at my friend Jace's birthday party. Carter had shown up with someone I barely knew, wearing a dark green shirt and that easy smile that made people forgive him before he even did anything wrong. He laughed at one of my jokes from across the room, and when our eyes met, I felt that stupid little spark people write songs about. By midnight, we were sitting on the back steps, sharing warm beer from plastic cups, talking like we had known each other for years. He told me he wanted more out of life. I told him I wanted peace. Back then, that sounded compatible. It wasn't. For most of our relationship, we kept separate apartments. His place was across town, smaller, messier, closer to Nexion. Mine was a 2-bedroom in the Arts District, $1,800 a month, with exposed brick, old wood floors, and a balcony that looked over a little park where people walked dogs in sweaters. Carter loved my apartment. Not in the way you love something that belongs to someone you respect. More like the way people love hotel lobbies. Useful. Pretty. Available when needed. The signs started quietly. His phone angled away when he texted. Team dinners that somehow never included the team. Late nights that came with expensive perfume on his collar. Calls taken in my bathroom with the water running. He would step out smiling, kiss my forehead and say, "Work is insane right now, Nat." And I would nod because I wanted to be reasonable. That was my weakness. I kept mistaking silence for maturity. The name that kept appearing was Jenna Marlowe. Jenna, his boss. Jenna, VP of Talent Acquisition. Jenna, the brilliant mentor who really believed in him. Jenna, who taught him how to negotiate. Jenna, who invited him to closed-door strategy sessions. Jenna, who apparently knew more about my boyfriend's schedule than I did. Every time I asked about her, Carter made me feel ridiculous without directly calling me ridiculous. She's married, Nat. As if married people never lied. She has kids. As if children were magical shields against selfishness. She's my boss. As if power had ever stopped anyone from wanting what they shouldn't touch. Still, I waited. Because you do not blow up 4 years on a feeling. You wait for proof. The night everything broke was supposed to be a celebration. Nexion had closed some massive partnership with a European healthcare network. Carter said it was huge, career-changing. The kind of win that got people promoted, invited into better rooms, seated next to more powerful names. He wanted to throw a party at my place, not a small gathering, an event. Just a few coworkers, he said. By a few, he meant half his office, 2 executives, people from departments I had never heard of, and at least one woman who asked me where I kept the extra cocktail napkins, like I was hired staff. That Saturday, Carter had a quick meeting at noon. He came back at 4:30. I had already cleaned the apartment, bought groceries, arranged drinks on the counter, moved plants off the balcony, taken out trash, vacuumed twice, and gone back to the store because I forgot ice. When he walked in, he barely looked up from his phone. "Babe, this looks amazing," he said, smiling at whatever was on his screen. "Oh, Jenna's bringing that imported bottle she was talking about." Of course she was. People started arriving around 7. The apartment filled quickly with sleek coats, expensive watches, perfume, laughter that sounded rehearsed, and conversations about growth strategy and leadership pipelines. Everyone looked like they belonged to Carter's future. I suddenly felt underdressed in jeans and a black blouse. At my own party, in my own home. For the first hour, I handled the bar. I opened wine, refilled ice, pointed people toward the bathroom, answered polite questions from people who forgot my answers while I was still speaking. "So what do you do, Natalie?" "Quality control." "Oh, nice." Then their eyes slid past me, searching for someone more useful. Carter moved through the room like a man auditioning for a better life. He laughed too loudly at Jenna's jokes. He touched her elbow when he passed. She leaned close when she spoke to him, close enough that her hair brushed his shoulder. At 9, I went into the kitchen for more ice. That was when I heard his voice. "Honestly, I don't know why I'm still with her." The bag of ice went still in my hands. For a second, I thought I had misheard. Then I looked through the doorway. Carter stood near the balcony with 3 people from Nexian. One was Victor, a senior recruiter with permanently unimpressed eyes. One was a woman from Carter's team whose name I could never remember. The third was Jenna. Jenna held her glass near her mouth, watching Carter like she already knew the answer. Victor laughed awkwardly. "Come on, man. Natalie seems decent." Carter smiled, not his real smile. The other one, the one he used when he was about to say something cruel and wanted witnesses to mistake it for honesty. "Decent doesn't get you anywhere, Victor." The room tilted slightly. Carter took a sip of his drink. "Decent doesn't open doors. Decent doesn't get you into rooms that matter." Jenna's eyes flicked toward him, pleased. "I need someone who matches my ambition," Carter continued. "Someone who's actually building something. Not someone who peaked at checking expiration dates for a living." The ice bag split in my hands. Cubes scattered across the kitchen floor, bouncing under cabinets, skittering against chair legs. Nobody moved. Carter turned. Our eyes met across my apartment. 2 seconds, maybe 3. Long enough for shame to have found him, if there had been any left. But he did not look embarrassed. He looked annoyed, like I had interrupted his performance by existing within earshot. The woman beside Victor whispered, "Carter." He ignored her. Jenna lowered her glass. Carter straightened, his face hardening into something almost relieved. Then he said it, loud enough for the music to seem suddenly thin. "You'll never be good enough for me, Natalie. You're just a situationship." The apartment went quiet, in pieces. First the balcony, then the couch, then the kitchen, then the entire room. 30-something people turned toward me with drinks in their hands and curiosity on their faces. Not concern. Curiosity. They were waiting to see what a woman looked like when she realized she had been reduced to a punchline in her own home. Something inside me went very still. I walked past Carter, past Jenna, past Victor. I went to the speaker and killed the music. The silence landed hard. Carter blinked. "Nat, don't." "Party's over," I said. No one moved. So I looked around the room, at every person holding a glass I had paid for, standing under lights I paid to keep on, in an apartment where I had just been publicly degraded. "Get out." A woman near the couch slowly set down her drink. Victor grabbed his coat first. Smart man. Then the others followed, murmuring apologies, avoiding my eyes, suddenly desperate to be anywhere else. Jenna did not move at first. She looked at Carter, like she was waiting for him to fix it. I turned to her. "You too." Her mouth tightened. Then she picked up her imported bottle from the counter and walked out without a word. Carter stood frozen by the balcony, still holding his glass. "You're embarrassing yourself," he said. His voice shook. "No," I said. "You did that." I opened the front door. His face changed then. Not regret. Fear. Because the room was empty now. No audience. No coworkers. No Jenna. Just me. The woman he thought would fold, because I always had before. 4 years, I said. 4 years, Carter. And I'm furniture? A situationship? He swallowed. "Natalie, I was angry. You were honest." He stepped toward me. "Can we talk?" "We just did." His eyes flashed. "You're making a mistake." I almost laughed. Maybe I did. "You want someone who's building something?" I said. "Go find her. But you're not doing it from my living room." He grabbed his jacket with stiff, furious movements. At the door, he turned back like he expected me to soften, like he could still pull one last thread and make me unravel. I closed the door in his face. Then I stood there for 5 full minutes, breathing. The apartment smelled like perfume, spilled wine, and something burned that I had not noticed before. Solo cups sat everywhere. Ice melted across the kitchen floor. My hands were steady. That was the strangest part. I thought heartbreak would feel like falling apart. Instead, it felt like finally hearing the lock click on a cage I had been living in for years. I thought ending it would be the worst part. I was wrong. It was only the first door opening. I thought silence would follow. I thought once Carter was gone, the worst part would be over. The echo of his voice, the humiliation replaying in my head, the slow process of remembering how to exist without constantly measuring myself against someone else's expectations. I was wrong. The first text came 3 days later. "Hey, beautiful. You still at the bar?" I stared at it for a long moment, thumb hovering over the screen. "Wrong number," I typed back. 3 dots appeared immediately. "You said you were wearing the dark green dress." My stomach dropped. The dark green dress. The one Carter wore the night we met. I didn't reply. Blocked the number. Told myself it was nothing.
A coincidence.
By the end of that night, I had blocked 6 more. Different area codes. Same tone. Same assumption. By the second day, I stopped pretending it was random. By the third, I understood exactly what he was doing. Carter wasn't just gone. He was rewriting me. He was out somewhere. In bars, at events, handing out my number like it was a joke. Using details from our relationship to make it convincing, turning me into a punchline for strangers. A woman they thought they had met. A woman who didn't exist. I changed my voicemail. "If you think this is Carter, you've been lied to. Don't call again." It didn't help. The messages kept coming. Then, one guy actually called. "You told me you were single," he said, confused, not aggressive, just misled. Before I could even answer, he sent me a screenshot. A different number. Carter's words. "Text me here instead. My phone's dying." And then, my number.
A relay. A system.
He wasn't just lashing out. He was organizing it. My hands went cold. Not because I was scared, because I realized something else. This wasn't emotional. It was calculated. The same way he built relationships at work. The same way he navigated people. He was treating my life like a campaign, and I was the target. I started saving everything. Every text, every number, every screenshot. Documentation. That word echoed in my head. Because Carter had always believed in narratives, and I was done letting him write mine. 2 weeks after the party, he texted me directly. A new number. "I just want closure." I almost laughed. Closure. Like this was a mutual misunderstanding. Like we were 2 people who had drifted apart, instead of one person who had set the other on fire in front of an audience. He sent a link.
A personality test.
Some kind of narcissism assessment. "I think this might help us understand what went wrong." For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity is a dangerous thing when you're still trying to make sense of betrayal. So I took it. Answered honestly. Didn't overthink it. Didn't try to game the outcome. Just answered. The next day, I understood why he sent it. Because it wasn't for understanding. It was for ammunition. Becca texted me first. "Natalie, I think you need to see this." Screenshot. Group chat. Carter's name at the top. My results posted underneath. Highlighted phrases circled like evidence in a courtroom. Lacks empathy. Control tendencies. Emotional rigidity. And below it, Carter's message. Starting to make sense now. My chest tightened. Not because I believed it, but because I knew exactly what he was doing. He was building a narrative, piece by piece, so that when anyone heard my version of events, they would already have his.
A framework. A lens.
A way to dismiss me before I even spoke. I didn't respond. I just added it to the folder. Evidence. Around that same time, Becca reached out again. Not with a screenshot. With a message that felt heavier. "I know you probably don't want to hear anything about him right now, but I think you should know this." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back. "Just tell me." There was a pause. Then, the night of the party, after everyone left, Carter called Jenna from the parking lot. My fingers tightened around my phone. What did he say? Another pause, like she was deciding how much to give me. Then, he said, "Finally, now I don't have to keep pretending. Jenna's going to be so relieved." Something inside me went very, very quiet. Not shock, not even anger, just confirmation. Every late night, Every angled phone, every team dinner, every instinct I had, silenced. Validated in one sentence. Thanks, I typed back. Becca sent one more message. I'm sorry. I didn't respond because there was nothing to say. Sorry didn't undo 4 years. Sorry didn't erase the image of him standing in my living room, choosing humiliation over honesty. Sorry didn't matter anymore. That night, I opened my laptop, not to scroll, not to distract myself, but because there was something I had been avoiding, something I had known about for years but never touched. The shared cloud account. We set it up early in the relationship. Photos,
Trips.
random documents, things people think will last forever. We never changed the password. Never had a reason to. Until now, my hand hovered over the trackpad. This was a line. Once I crossed it, there was no pretending anymore. No maybe. No, I'm overthinking. Just truth. I clicked. The folder loaded. Dozens of files. Neatly organized. Work events. I almost closed it. Almost chose ignorance. But I didn't. I clicked. The first photo loaded slowly. Miami. A rooftop bar. City lights stretching behind them like a postcard. Carter stood close to Jenna. Too close. His arm wrapped around her waist like it belonged there. She leaned into him, laughing, head tilted back. His face was inches from hers. Not professional. Not ambiguous.
Intimate.
The timestamp sat quietly in the corner. January. Almost 11 months ago. I scrolled. Austin.
Conference party.
Except nothing about it looked like a conference. His hand on her lower back. Her body angled toward his. Like gravity worked differently when they were together. San Diego. Dinner. Glasses raised. The way they looked at each other wasn't subtle. It wasn't something you could misinterpret. It was hunger. Denver. That one made me stop. Carter in a hotel robe. Mirror selfie. And behind him, Jenna.
Shirtless.
Smiling like this was normal. Like this was something they had done 100 times. Timestamp. 11:47 p.m. I swallowed hard. My throat felt raw, but I kept going because stopping wouldn't undo it. It would just delay understanding how deep it went. Portland. 2 weeks ago. The trip, he told me, was mandatory. Leadership training, team building, photos of them hiking. Matching company hoodies. Same hotel room. His jacket draped over a chair next to her dress. An expensive bottle on the nightstand. 2 glasses. No separation. No distance. No doubt. I right-clicked one of the images. Opened the metadata.
Location.
Hotel name. I searched it.
High-end.
$300 a night, minimum. The suite in the photo? More. Much more. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling, let it settle. This wasn't just an affair. It was a pattern.
A system.
A life he had built alongside ours. And then I remembered something. The expense reports. He had mentioned them before.
Casually.
Complaining about paperwork. About approvals. About how tedious it was. My pulse quickened. I went back into the folders. Found the documents. Opened the first one. Client dinner. $285.
Attached receipt. Steakhouse.
2 people. No client name. No notes. Just a charge. I pulled up the Miami photo. Matched the date. Matched the location. Matched the lie. My jaw tightened. I opened another. Conference materials. $725. No materials. Just vague wording. Another trip. Another receipt. Another lie. One by one, the pattern revealed itself. Flights. Hotels. Dinners.
Transportation.
All labeled as business. All matching personal moments. All approved by Jenna. I sat there, staring at the screen, as the realization fully formed. This wasn't just betrayal. This was fraud. Company money. Company trust. Used to fund a relationship they weren't even trying to hide from themselves, just from everyone else. I started downloading everything. Every photo. Every document. Every receipt. Created a new folder on my desktop. Named it one word. Evidence. My phone buzzed. Another message. Another new number. Please talk to me. I need to know you're okay. I stared at it. At the audacity. At the timing. At the way he could build chaos and still position himself as concerned. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I almost sent one of the photos. Almost watched him scramble. Almost gave him a warning. But I stopped. because something had shifted. This wasn't about reacting anymore. It was about strategy. I closed the message, ignored it, opened a new tab, typed slowly. Employment attorney near me. The search results loaded. Names, offices, reviews, options. For the first time since the party, I felt something solid settle in my chest. Not anger, not pain.
Control.
He wanted to play narratives. Fine. I was done being the story. I was about to become the author of what happened next. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't want to. Sleep felt like surrender, and I wasn't done yet. By 4 a.m, I had gone through every file twice. Photos, receipts, metadata, patterns. There was no doubt left. No room for interpretation. Just facts. Cold, structured, undeniable facts. So I did the only thing that made sense. I put on my running shoes and stepped out into the empty street. The city was quiet in that strange way it only is before sunrise, like everything is holding its breath, waiting for something to begin. I ran 3 miles, then 4, then 5, until my lungs burned and my legs screamed, and the only thing left in my head was movement.
Forward. Forward. Forward.
By the time I got back, sweat-soaked and exhausted, something had settled inside me. Not peace, but direction. Monday morning, I called an attorney. She picked up on the second ring.
Calm voice.
No wasted words. My name is Natalie Hale, I said. I just ended a 4-year relationship. My ex has been harassing me, giving my number to strangers, running a smear campaign, and I've discovered he's been committing expense fraud at his company with his boss. I have documentation. There was a pause, a long one. Then, that's a lot. Can you come in today at 2? I can. I'll see you then. Her office was exactly what I expected.
Minimal.
Organized. Everything in its place. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that made you sit straighter without realizing why. No small talk. No sympathy performance. Just a bottle of water slid across the desk and a simple instruction. Start from the beginning. So I did. The party. The harassment. The screenshots. The cloud account. The photos. The expense reports. I showed her everything. She didn't interrupt. Didn't react much either. Just listened. Watched. Noted. When I finished, she leaned back slightly, tapping a pen against the desk. The fraud, she said finally. That's not my specialty. But I can tell you this. If what you're showing me is accurate, his company will care. A lot. I nodded. I'm not looking to sue, I said. I just want to know what my options are. She studied me for a moment. Was the cloud account shared? Yes. Same password for both of you? For 4 years. She nodded once. Then you didn't hack anything. You accessed something you were authorized to access. A small piece of tension I hadn't even noticed loosen. For the harassment, she continued, I can send a cease and desist. That might slow him down, might not, but it creates a record. And the fraud? She paused again. Anonymous reporting is your safest route. Provide documentation. Let the company investigate. Keep your name out of it. I exhaled slowly. And if he keeps pushing the narrative? I asked. Then you keep documenting, she said. And you don't engage publicly. People like him rely on reaction. Don't give him one. She set the pen down. What's your endgame, Natalie? The question hung in the air. Revenge? Justice? Closure? I thought about Carter's voice in my living room. The way he said situationship, like I was something disposable. The way he looked at me like I was an inconvenience. I want him to face consequences, I said. Not just with me. With everything. She nodded once. Then you're already on the right path. When I got home, he was sitting on my front steps.
Carter.
Hood pulled up, elbows on his knees, like he had nowhere else to go. For a second, something old and automatic stirred in my chest.
Concern.
Then, it disappeared. He stood when he saw me. Natalie, he said, voice rough. We need to talk. No, I said calmly. We don't. Please. I kept walking. He stepped in front of me. I wasn't thinking straight, he said quickly. The party. I didn't mean any of that. I tilted my head slightly. Which part? He blinked. The part where you called me furniture, I continued. Or the part where you said Jenna would be relieved you didn't have to pretend anymore. His face changed.
Subtle.
But I saw it. The mask slipping just enough to reveal what was underneath.
Calculation.
Who told you that? He asked. Does it matter? It does to me. Of course it did. Because he needed to control the leak, not fix the damage. I set my bag down slowly, pulled out my phone, opened the folder. Let's talk about something that matters to me, I said. I turned the screen toward him. Miami, the rooftop bar, his arm around Jenna's waist, his smile, her laughter. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the color drained from his face. Where did you get that? He whispered. Our cloud account, I said. The one you never bothered to secure. His eyes flicked between the phone and my face. Fast.
Processing. Recalculating.
Those were work trips, he said quickly. You're reading into... I swiped. Denver. Hotel robe. Jenna in the mirror behind him. Shirtless. Smiling. His voice died in his throat. Work trip? I asked quietly. What exactly were you working on? He reached for the phone. I pulled it back. Don't, I said. Something in my tone made him stop. Really stop. For the first time since I met him, I looked up Nexion's policies, I continued. Non-fraternization between supervisors and direct reports. And I'm very curious how they'd feel about expense reports funding your team building. He stared at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. You're bluffing. I opened another file. Client dinner, $285, I read. But the receipt shows dinner for two. No client, no notes. I looked up. That's fraud, Carter.
Silence.
Heavy. Real. Then, something shifted in him. I saw it happen. The moment apology died, and strategy took over. Fine, he said, voice sharpening. You want to play like that? There it was. The real Carter. I'll tell everyone you were controlling, he continued. That you isolated me, that I was scared to leave. I didn't react, didn't blink. He stepped closer. Remember that quiz you took? He added. The one that flagged you for narcissistic tendencies? I still have the results. I held his gaze for a long moment. Then I unlocked my phone again, pulled up the screenshots, the group chat, his messages, the captions. I have those too, I said. And then, slowly, along with every number you gave mine to, that hit. I saw it land. Different from everything else, because that wasn't something he could spin. That was something he had done in the dark, thinking no one would map it. You don't want to do this, he said quietly. No, I replied. You don't. He tried everything after that. Apologies. Excuses. Anger. Softness. Threats. Every version of himself he had ever used to get what he wanted. None of it worked. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting to him. I was observing him. And once you see someone clearly, you can't unsee them. Finally, he stopped, breathing hard, eyes sharp. You're still not enough, he said, voice low. You never were. I let the words pass through me, like air. Give me the key, I said. He frowned. What? The key to my apartment. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket, pulled it out, dropped it into my hand. It felt heavier than it should have. Don't come back, I said. He stood there for a second, like he was waiting for something. A crack. A hesitation. A reason to stay. There wasn't one, so he left. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. Same space, same furniture, same walls. But everything felt different. Lighter. Cleaner. Like something had been removed that I didn't realize was suffocating me. I opened my laptop, logged into the streaming account I had been paying for since before we met, renamed his profile to guest, changed the language to Mandarin, set a pin on mine. It was petty, small, insignificant in the grand scheme of everything, but it made me smile. 4 minutes later, my phone buzzed. What did you do to the account? I stared at the message, then typed back. Guest accounts don't get opinions. Blocked. Changed my locks the next morning. Every door, every entry point, every access he had, gone. 2 days later, Becca sent me another screenshot. Carter's private Instagram. A long caption.
Emotional.
Carefully written. about escaping a toxic relationship, about finding the strength to leave, about how he had been controlled,
manipulated, silenced,
The comments were immediate.
supportive, sympathetic,
Proud of you. You deserve better. Stay strong. People I had met once, twice, never. All of them rallying around his version. I felt the urge rise in my chest.
sharp, immediate,
To post everything, the photos, the receipts, the truth. To burn his narrative to the ground, but I didn't. Because I remembered what the attorney said. Let him talk, let him build, let him overplay. So I did something harder. I put my phone in a drawer and I waited. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to win an argument. I was preparing to end the game. Waiting was harder than confronting him. There's a strange kind of addiction to reacting, to correcting every lie, answering every accusation, proving, explaining, defending. Silence feels like losing at first. But silence, I learned, is where people like Carter make their biggest mistakes. Because when no one pushes back, they start believing their own story. The posts kept coming, subtle at first. Quotes about healing, about walking away from emotional abuse, about finally choosing yourself. He never said my name. He didn't have to. Anyone who knew us could connect the dots. And they did. A few messages slipped through before I filtered everything. I always thought something was off about you. Carter told us everything. You should be ashamed. You need help. I read them once, then archived them.
evidence,
Not wounds. That distinction mattered more than I expected. A week passed, then another. My life started to feel quiet again.
work, gym,
Sleep. Repeat. The chaos he left behind slowly stopped echoing. And then he made a mistake, a big one. He posted publicly, not just the private account, all of them. A long, emotional statement about surviving narcissistic abuse, about finding strength, about how he had been afraid to speak. It was polished,
convincing,
the kind of thing people share without thinking. And then Jenna commented, "So proud of how far you've come. You deserve someone who supports your dreams and matches your energy." I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds. Then I took a screenshot because that one comment connected everything.
publicly,
Timestamped.
documented,
The relationship he claimed didn't exist until after me. The relationship I had proof had been going on for nearly a year. He had just confirmed it himself, without realizing it. I didn't react, didn't respond, didn't post. I just added it to the folder. Evidence. That night, I created a new email. No name, no identifiers. A clean account. I connected through a VPN. Not because I was paranoid, because I was careful. I opened the blank message, addressed it to Nexian's HR department and their ethics hotline. Then I started typing. No emotion, no accusations, just facts. Reporting potential policy violations involving Carter Voss, talent acquisition specialist, and Jenna Marlowe, VP of talent acquisition. I outlined everything. The relationship, the direct reporting line, the timeline, the expense reports, the inconsistencies. I attached 12 photos, metadata intact, 6 expense reports, receipts highlighted, and finally, the screenshot of Jenna's comment. I read it 3 times, checked the attachments, made sure nothing could trace back to me. Then I hit send. And just like that, it was out of my hands. The response came faster than I expected. Not to me, to them. Becca texted me 2 days later. They pulled both of them into interviews. Another message. They brought in an outside audit team. Another. Natalie, it's bad. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. I knew what they would find. Because I had already seen it. 2 days after that, he showed up. Not at my apartment, not outside. At my work.
shift change,
The worst possible time. Hundreds of people moving through the gates.
steel toe boots,
Engines idling, forklifts beeping, noise everywhere. And there he was, standing just outside the security fence, hood up. Hair pulled back, eyes scanning the crowd like he was searching for something he had already lost. Security had stopped him, but he was close enough to be seen, which meant he didn't want privacy. He wanted pressure. I saw him before he saw me. And for a moment, I considered turning around, taking a different entrance, avoiding it. Then I realized that would be giving him control. Again, so I kept walking. Same pace, same posture, like he was just another person standing outside the gate. He spotted me halfway through the crowd. His entire body shifted.
Relief. Desperation.
Fear. All at once. "Natalie," he called. I didn't respond. Just kept walking until I reached the fence, close enough to hear him, far enough that he couldn't touch me. He hated that. I could see it. The distance, the barrier, the fact that he couldn't close it. "Please," he said, voice breaking slightly. "We need to talk." "No," I said. His eyes flicked around. People were watching. Of course they were. That's why he came here. "I'll fix it," he said quickly. "I'll delete everything. I'll post that I lied. I'll tell everyone the truth. Just make this stop. Not, 'I'm sorry.' Not, 'I was wrong.' Just make this stop." His phone lit up, screen facing me for a split second. "Jenna. Calling." He declined it. Another call.
Declined.
A message. Another. His phone was lighting up like a warning system he couldn't shut off. The investigation had reached them. And they knew. He looked at me like I was the only thing standing between him and collapse. "Her husband doesn't know," he said suddenly.
Quieter.
More desperate. "Jenna's husband. Their kids. Natalie, please, don't do this to them." I watched his phone buzz again, and in that moment, everything became very simple. "You already did," I said. "That's why this is happening." His face broke. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly, like something inside him had finally given way. I didn't wait for a response, didn't give him time to find another angle. I turned, walked through the gate, and didn't look back. Security closed it behind me. The investigation moved quickly after that, faster than anyone expected, because once someone starts looking, they see everything. Photos were one thing. But the paper trail? That was something else entirely. Expense reports going back 11 months. Inflated hotel rates. Personal trips labeled as business travel. Receipts altered. Dates shifted. Amounts changed.
A pattern.
Not a mistake. Over $12,000. Maybe more. All approved. All signed off. All tied to Jenna and Carter together. While HR built their case, he kept posting, still trying to control the narrative, still trying to paint himself as the victim. And then he made his biggest mistake. He filed a complaint against Nexian, claimed harassment, said Jenna had pressured him, that he felt coerced, that he was afraid to say no because of the power imbalance. I almost laughed when I heard, because I had seen the messages. Hundreds of them, pulled from company servers during the investigation. And they told a very different story. He pursued her, not the other way around. Texts about how he couldn't stop thinking about her, about wanting more, about planning trips, choosing hotels, picking restaurants. He wasn't trapped. He was enthusiastic,
Strategic. Willing.
and now he was trying to rewrite that too. But this time, he couldn't. Because the company had everything, and facts don't bend. Jenna was escorted out the day the investigation concluded. No announcement, no ceremony, just a quiet walk past people who suddenly refused to make eye contact. Her husband found out within 2 weeks. Filled immediately. House.
Custody.
Everything changed. Carter lasted a little longer. Not because he deserved it, because HR needed to finish the process. Then he was gone too. Complaint dismissed. No evidence of coercion. Plenty of evidence of participation. His final post blamed a vindictive ex. Said the evidence was manipulated, taken out of context. People started asking questions. His story didn't line up anymore. He deleted it within an hour. And just like that, the narrative he built
Collapsed under its own weight.
I didn't have to destroy it. I just had to let it stand long enough to fail. 4 months passed. Not dramatically. Not in some cinematic montage where everything suddenly makes sense. Just quietly. One day at a time. And that was the biggest difference. For the first time in years, my life wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't something I had to survive. It was something I could actually live. The apartment felt different. Same space, Same balcony, same view of the park where people walk their dogs like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. But it was mine, again. No tension in the air. No second guessing every word. No checking the clock wondering where someone was or who they were with. Just silence and peace. I got promoted at work 3 months in. Better title, better pay. But more than that,
Respect.
my supervisor told me I'd been stepping up, taking initiative, mentoring new hires, handling problems before they became disasters. Funny how easy it is to perform when you're not constantly drained by someone else's chaos. I started going to the gym 5 days a week. At first, it was just to burn off the restlessness. Then it became something else.
Structure. Control.
Proof that I could build something for myself. I lost 20 pounds. But more importantly, I stopped waking up at 3 in the morning. Stopped replaying conversations in my head. Stopped asking myself what I had done wrong. Because I finally understood something simple. I hadn't been the problem. I had just been convenient. I started dating again, slowly.
Carefully.
Not because I needed someone, because I wanted to try again without losing myself. That's how I met Ryan Ellis.
A graphic designer. Dry sense of humor.
The kind of man who listened more than he spoke. He didn't try to impress me, didn't sell me a version of himself. He just showed up.
Consistently.
We had been on 6 dates. No pressure, no rushing, no games. Just 2 people figuring things out at a pace that felt real. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to earn someone's attention, and that changed everything. The day I saw Carter again was a Thursday. Nothing special about it. I was at the grocery store near my apartment.
Cereal aisle.
Standing there debating between 2 brands of granola like that was the hardest decision I had to make. And honestly, it kind of was. Which felt like a victory. Then I saw him, standing a few feet away, in front of the protein bars, looking at his phone like it owed him something, or maybe like it was the only thing he had left. He looked different, smaller. Not physically, just diminished. Hair pulled back, no polish, no confidence, no performance. Just a man trying to exist in a life that didn't look the way he thought it would. He looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. The world kept going around us. Kids arguing in the next aisle, a cart squeaking somewhere behind me, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Normal. Everything felt normal. And that was the strangest part, because there was nothing normal about what we had been through. But here we were, just 2 people in a grocery store. He walked toward me. Of course he did. Natalie. I didn't respond, just waited. Let him come to me. He crossed his arms, that same defensive posture. Some habits don't change. I heard you got promoted, he said. I didn't answer. Also heard you're seeing someone. Still nothing. He let out a short laugh. No humor in it. You know what's funny? He said. I spent 4 years thinking you were the problem. I tilted my head slightly. He continued, that you were holding me back. That I needed someone more ambitious, more connected. More, he trailed off, shook his head. Turns out, he said quietly, the only thing holding me back was me. I let that sit for a moment, then said, that's a nice realization. I picked up my cart. Bit late, though. His eyes flashed. There it was, that familiar edge. You reported me, didn't you? He said. I didn't stop. The anonymous tip, he pressed. You submitted it. I kept my face neutral. You ruined my career, he said, stepping closer. Say it. Say you did it. I moved around him, like he was just another obstacle in the aisle. Natalie. I stopped. But I didn't turn around. I really did love you, he said. In my own way, I closed my eyes for a second. Not because it hurt, because it didn't. And that surprised me. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard, I said. Then I walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Some things don't require a final scene. They just end. The checkout line was short. I paid, loaded my groceries into my car, drove home. Same route. Same streets, but everything felt lighter, like the weight I had been carrying for years had finally been set down somewhere I didn't have to go back to. My phone buzzed while I was putting things away. Ryan, free Saturday? Found a new Thai place. Looks amazing. I smiled. Typed back. Absolutely. Pick me up at 7. A few seconds later. Perfect. Can't wait. I set the phone down, looked around my apartment, my space, my life, everything I had rebuilt, not from revenge, not from anger, but from clarity, from finally seeing the truth and choosing not to ignore it. Carter wanted someone ambitious, someone who was building something. He just never realized I was just not for him. And in the end, walking away wasn't losing everything. It was the first step toward building something that was actually mine.